You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. All right. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. You are listening to episode 100 episodes, y'all. That is wild. I cannot believe it. I remember when I first started this podcast, I actually had been something that I wanted to do for a long time, like at least sitting on the idea of starting a podcast for 3 years, but I was like overthinking it and I was like being perfectionist about it. And then I guess it was into 2024, I decided it's finally time to do the damn thing and create the podcast and stop being a perfectionist about it and just start recording. And I'm so happy that I have. So many of y'all have, reached out and reflected that it's something that you listen to every week, you look forward to. And so I'm just so grateful for you all being here and tuning in. I have really enjoyed doing this and showing up every week. And originally, I was going to do like a special episode 100 theme, but I'm going to be really honest with you. I have been so jet lagged lately. I originally wanted to record this before I left for Greece, and I did a client trip in Greece. We were climbing, rock climbing, and we just got back from that on Monday, so like just a few days before this is published, and I have been so tired. I've not been getting very good sleep, and I keep overthinking the whole episode 100 thing. So I decided to release my judgment around having a very unique special episode 100, and I'm going to pivot into a topic that I am honestly really excited to talk about. It's been a hot take episode that I've been wanting to record for a while. So today, we're going to talk about something that has been probably flooding your social media feed, or you've seen it. It's been on every corner of the internet lately. I'm hearing people talk about it all the time. And the first time I heard this term was actually really recently. And so I was even like, okay, that's an interesting word. And I have a lot of thoughts on this topic. And I promised people, like there was a couple of my clients, I said, I will be recording a hot take on this. And I think I have a hot take that nobody else is really giving the attention that it needs in the context of this conversation. But first, really quick, if you are a woman who has been wanting to hike or wanting to go backpacking solo, who has maybe been dreaming about it, who keeps saying, someday I will actually do this, like it's in the back of your mind, that you've been wanting to do it, it's been a dream of yours, I need you to know that we have a completely free virtual event. It is one of our biggest events of the year. We've done it. This will be, I think, our 4th year running this event. And it's coming up in just a couple of weeks, and registration is officially open. It is our Solo Hiker Summit, and it is happening June 3rd through 5th. And even if you've been to one of our summits in the past, we always do them a little bit different every year. We have different speakers, we have different topics. So if you have been before, it's going to be even better than it's ever been. This is probably the best one we've ever put on. It's 3 days, 13 sessions. It's specifically designed for women who are wanting to go solo or do more solo hiking, solo backpacking, want to feel more empowered in that. They're done waiting for the right person or the right conditions in their life or even the right version of themselves in order to head out onto the trails and start having amazing adventures. They're ready to feel confident in doing it on their own, or at least even having that option if they cannot find somebody to go with. So today's episode is actually going to feel very relevant to what we're going to be covering at that summit. So if you're interested in registering, you can head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/summit and you can save your free spot. You can do that right now. You can just navigate to shedreamsofalpine.com/summit, save your spot, register, and then you can come back and listen to the rest of this episode. I'll also link this in the show notes as well. All right. So now let's get into today's episode. So if you have been anywhere on TikTok or Instagram or social media lately, you may have heard the term Alpine Divorce. And if you haven't, let me give you some context and tell you exactly what it is and where it came from. Because it's not just a metaphor or an exaggeration, and it's not just this like weird internet moment that we're having right now. Alpine divorce is a term for what happens when typically a man takes a woman hiking. I'm not going to say always because it could be the other way around. You could use this term in other situations, but it's typically talked about when a man takes a woman hiking, sometimes on a trail far above her skill level, sometimes in terrain she's never been in before, and then leaves her there and ends the relationship on the trail and essentially strands her out there. And this isn't just like a bad breakup story that went viral. There's actually even a legal case outside of Austria where a man was convicted of manslaughter for abandoning his girlfriend on the highest mountain in Austria, and she died of hypothermia. And she died alone on a mountain because the person that she trusted to be her hiking partner left her there. And a TikTok video about this trend got over 19 million views or something like that. And then there were so many comments that flooded in where women everywhere were sharing their own versions of this experience. Obviously not always as extreme as the example from Austria, but you know, still being abandoned, being left, or being stranded in terrain that wasn't familiar to them by the person they trusted to be their partner on the trail. And ever since like April, I've been seeing so many different versions of this trend and this post and this topic, and I've had so many thoughts, but I've also been so busy with other things like we have been doing at She Dreams of Alpine and teaching that I haven't really gotten to like record an episode on. It's basically the hill I've been dying on for a long time, but I wanted to put a formal place on my thoughts about Alpine divorce. And I do also want to acknowledge that the whole concept of this idea, it is scary, like genuinely, like that it blows my mind. Like as an outdoor educator, a backpacking guide, I honestly do not know how you could do that to somebody, no matter what is happening in your relationship. Like I've definitely been in situations with, you know, a partner in the past or a boyfriend in the past where we've gotten in a fight on the trail and just didn't talk to each other the whole way back, but you didn't abandon each other. So it is scary, like this whole concept. But you know, the idea of being a place you don't know without the skills or the gear, the knowledge to get yourself out, and the one person you were like counting on is gone, and that fear is real. So I hear it from women in our community like all the time about, you know, that being a fear, maybe not like necessarily by a partner ending a relationship, but even just getting like left behind because they're a slower hiker or something like that. And the fear of being in an environment where you don't have control or being abandoned somewhere or being left behind in some capacity. So yes, this is a real thing. It is happening. Obviously, there's like women sharing their stories. And so I'm not minimizing that. But I am going to tell you something that I haven't really been seeing people talk about, or it hasn't been getting the attention I think it should be in these conversations. Like, it's really like when I've seen it on the internet, it's a lot of outrage, a lot of sharing personal stories, and really more like, for me, it feels like it's just feeding into the fear and making, like, giving another topic of where, like, oh, this is why, like, women shouldn't, they can't do things alone and like it's not safe for them. It's just like building into the fear stories. And I have a lot of issues with that. If you've been following me for a long time, like I have a lot of thoughts on that. So I want to dive into that and talk more about my take on this topic and what you can do to get rid of your Alpine divorce fears if you have them. So here's the thing. I, again, have been watching this conversation happen everywhere online, the outrage, the relationship advice, the warnings about red flags and hiking partners, and all of that is very valid. But here is what nobody is really saying, and it's the thing, again, I've been talking about since the very beginning of She Dreams of Alpine. It's like the whole reason it was created. So, again, I've been dying to enter this conversation. Every single one of these Alpine divorce stories has one thing in common, and it's not just having a bad partner or boyfriend or husband or whatever it is. It's that the woman's safety was entirely in somebody else's hands. Maybe she didn't have the skills for what they were doing. She didn't have her own navigation device. She didn't know her own route. She didn't have a safety plan that belonged to her. She was depending on whoever she was with for her own survival in the backcountry. And listen, that's not her fault. Like a lot of us were not taught we needed those things. And a lot of us were taught to rely on other people instead of having that like confidence in ourselves. Nobody told her that showing up to a hike and just trusting her partner to get them both home safely was actually a really risky thing to do. Like, even if you didn't have a shitty partner, trusting somebody else entirely to your safety could present a whole slew of other problems. Like if they got hurt or something happened to them, that dependency maybe was never pointed out to her. And nobody told her, like this is something you should be thinking about preparing for. And that is definitely not a character flaw. It's just a gap that nobody helped her close. So what this all boils down to is that this is more of a dependency problem, not a relationship problem. It is of course, obviously, there is some relationship problem there if it's happening, but I think the root and the core problem and the thing we should be talking about more is the dependency problem. And the hot take that I really want to empower you with in this entire episode is you can't Alpine divorce a woman who knows how to get herself out and who knows how to have her own back no matter who she goes with. And I want you to think about that for a second, like really sit with that. You cannot strand a woman who has her own GPS device, who studied her route before she got on the trail, who knows how to read a map, who has a check-in plan with somebody who knows where she is and when to call for help. You can't abandon somebody who was never dependent on you for her safety in the first place. And that is the reframe that I want you to take away from this episode. And that is what I want for every woman who hits the trail, who goes into the backcountry to strive for and to be aiming for. And I have had many conversations with my community in our Backpacking Badass program and at our free events about how freeing it is when you know you have your own back no matter what, that you are self-reliant and self-efficient. It opens so many more doors for you, and it makes you feel lighter. It makes you feel like an active participant in any adventure that you go on. Like you literally, the world is your oyster. The backcountry is your oyster when you are in this place. So I want to give you like an example of that. I want to tell you a story because I think it'll make everything I just said feel more real. Share a personal story of this like first realization I had around this. So back in 2015, I was still pretty new backpacker at my very first backpacking trip. If you've ever listened to one of the first few episodes of this podcast, I talk about my first backpacking trip, which was like 2013. But 2015, I was still pretty new backpacker. I definitely had trips under my belt at this point. But I was still in that phase where like I was figuring out who I was out there and trusting myself more as a leader. And I happened to get invited on one of like a harder trip than I had ever done, on a trip with 4 other guys that I knew from work. So I used to be an engineer. I was an engineer in a very male dominated field. I didn't really have female friends that liked doing backpacking. So this was kind of par for the course for me, like being the only woman in the room, or in this case on the trail. The route we were doing was Onion Valley to Whitney Portal. It's a section of the JMT essentially in California. And it was 43 miles. It had over 11,000 feet of elevation gain. At the time, it was one of the hardest like physically demanding routes that I had ever done. And we did it over 4 days and 3 nights. And we did it early in the season. So it was like June. So there was some snow risk on some of the higher mountain passes that we were going to be going over, and some unknown conditions. And there was just like, it was a lot of things that was navigating, a lot of newness. And I was definitely nervous about going on that trip. And it wasn't necessarily like, the nervousness wasn't necessarily for me at the time around the miles or the elevation. Like I knew I could handle that part physically because I had done enough trips and I had gotten myself to that point. I was actually more nervous about being with a group of guys and being the only woman, not because I didn't feel like safe with them, but I had a lot of self-doubt around being the only woman. Like, what if I'm too slow? What if I hold them back? What if they regret inviting me? What if I get separated from them during the trip? And, you know, it was that like sneaky little self-doubt voice. And you're probably familiar with it if you are a woman and you have gone backpacking or you're getting into hiking or any of those things. This is a very common way to feel, is to have those self-doubt. But I also really wanted to go on this trip. Like, this felt like one of those trips. Again, at the time, it was like one of the harder backpacking trips I had done, and had a lot of unknowns, and that was very exciting to me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a next level of growing my skills in the backcountry, a next level trip. I knew there was a lot of growth waiting on the other side of this trip. And so instead of like listening to the voices of self-doubt to like make the decisions for me, I decided to make a really powerful decision for myself. And in that moment, like, I said yes to the trip, and I told myself that I may not be the fastest person on this trip, but I was going to absolutely be the most prepared. Like, I was going to show up feeling prepared and confident and self-sufficient. And so that's what I did. I like got to work before the trip. We were preparing for it. I like mapped out the entire route on Gaia. I learned every section of the route, not just where we were going, but like backup options, what the weather risks looked like. I like searched the forums. I did all the research. I understood where our biggest technical challenges were going to be, what gear we needed. I downloaded my GPS tracks so that I had like offline navigation no matter what. I planned for contingencies that honestly, I don't think any of the guys had even thought about. And I made sure that no matter what happened, like, I would have my own back no matter what. And here's what actually happened on that trip. So by the end of day 1, I quickly realized like I was the most prepared person in that group, like by a lot. I was the only one who had done full trip planning, and I had shared it with the whole group, and they were like, thanks for putting this together. And I had done the safety planning ahead of time, and got them on board. And I was the only one with offline GPS maps ready to go, everything routed. I guess they were like vibing, you know, some of them had GPS, but like they hadn't downloaded the things offline. They were just like, they had the maps. No judgment, but like, you know, we were doing a big trail, and, you know, I was also the only one who actually had the right gear for snow conditions at the altitude. Like, Forester Pass was one of the passes we were going over. It's at like 13,000 feet, and it was early in the season. And then, you know, day 1 of our trip, 2 of them even wanted to quit. I remember they were sitting there and they were talking about like it being harder than they were expecting. They were like doubting themselves, wondering if they should turn around. And like I was able to talk them through it because of all the preparation, because I knew what we were heading into, and because I knew what our pivot options were. I was able to help them navigate those options. And like we just made sure they ate and drank some fluids and got rest. And we made like those group decisions together. And you know what? I was sometimes the slowest hiker in certain sections, but it wasn't as big of a deal as I was worried about, because I can remember this one distinct moment when that happened. Like they started speeding up because they started to run out of water, and so they were wanting to go ahead towards this stream. And I just liked the pace that I was going at, and I was like, y'all can go ahead. And I hiked like a 1 mile section just completely on my own. And I felt like super confident in that. And I was like, we'll meet here and we'll meet up. And I was like, you know what? Even if for some reason we got disconnected, I would feel confident doing the rest of this trip on my own. Like I felt that confidence. And I never once got worried about being left behind because I knew the route better than anyone else in my group. And honestly, I was more worried about them getting separated from the group than I was about myself. So I went on that trip afraid that I was going to be a burden. And I came home having been the person who really like held it together, who was a leader. And that was the moment that something really shifted for me. Like I went full steam kind of after that trip. So knowing I had my own back through every single mile on that trail and in those mountains, that was when I stopped seeing myself as somebody who just like tags along and really started seeing myself as a leader in the backcountry. Not because I necessarily like had the most experience, but I had just done the work to be really confident and self-sufficient and own my own safety the whole entire way. And that really changes everything about how you carry yourself when you're out in the backcountry. And that is what I want for you. Like not just the skills, but I also want you to have like that identity and the self-trust that comes with having those skills. So when you have that kind of confidence, you will never worry about Alpine Divorce. And this is also like, by the way, exactly why the whole choose the bear conversation hit so hard, because there's a really dark undercurrent in that conversation. Like some women genuinely feel safer encountering an unpredictable animal in the woods than encountering an unpredictable man. And I think part of that is because they know, at least on some level, that if something goes wrong with the bear, the outcome depends on their own skills and their own decisions and their own agency. But if something goes wrong with the man, she may have completely outsourced her ability to get home safely. So self-sufficiency and empowering yourself with the right tools is the antidote to those fears. And it is absolutely the antidote to Alpine Divorce. And at our summit, which I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we're going to talk even more about this. We even have a guest expert, Nicole Snell from Girls Fight Back, to talk all about self-defense in the outdoors, because I know that's top of mind when women think about going solo and owning their safety in the outdoors. And you're going to love, love, love what she has to say about empowering yourself when hiking solo. So let's talk about what actually makes a woman immune to Alpine Divorce. Because what I want to be really clear about is that this is not about distrusting your hiking partner. This is also not about never hiking with a man or never trusting the people you love. Like, absolutely not. I hike with men all the time. This is about something I teach inside of my Backpacking Badass program. And it's this idea of becoming not just like confident in the outdoors, but I call it being solo confident. That even if you never really want to go solo, like even if solo hiking or solo backpacking is never on your radar, you don't want to do it. That's totally fine. I always think going solo is a personal choice, but I want you to feel so grounded and so calm and confident in your skills that you could go solo if you needed to. You would feel confident to go solo confident, because things do happen. Groups split up by accident. Sometimes like you just are in a group that is going different paces and somebody takes a turn down a trail they were not meant to take a turn down, but the person who has the maps is like not with them, and they're like on a totally different trail, and you get split up by accident. You may need to leave your group to get help. Like maybe somebody's hurt and the best option is for you to go get help. Or in a worst case scenario, you could be with somebody who leaves purposely, like in the Alpine Divorce scenarios. And so being solo confident is about being self-sufficient in groups, with friends, on your own, when you're the leader of a trip, or even in guided situations. Like I think there's something so powerful about signing up for a guided adventure and having ownership in your safety along the way. Like maybe you aren't the expert, but like you own a piece of your safety, even if you were going on a guided adventure. And that is truly the shift. Like self-sufficiency shouldn't be seen as the backup plan. It should be the plan. And it's not like I'll trust my partner and if he fails me, I'll figure it out. It's I am always the primary person responsible for getting myself home safely. And my partner is somebody that I get to enjoy being on the trail with, but my safety belongs to me. And it's radical ownership of your whole adventure. And when you head out into the backcountry, I want you to feel like an active, engaged participant in it. And you're going to enjoy your adventure so much more. You're not going to be like gripped with fear the whole time. You're going to feel so much more free and honestly able to enjoy the adventurous aspects of your trips so much more because you know how to navigate the highs and the lows and the risk and the safety calls. So let's talk about like what this actually looks like, because I don't want to just give you the concept. I want you to feel what this looks like in practice as well. So I want you to picture that you're planning a hike with your partner. Maybe it's a day hike, maybe it's an overnight backpacking trip. But the self-sufficient hiker, she doesn't just show up at the trailhead and follow the person that she is hiking with. She has already like looked at the route herself on her own, not just because, maybe her partner texted her the All Trails link the night before, but because she pulled it up, she looked at it, she understood where they're going, she understood how long it will take, she understood what the terrain looks like, where maybe potential turnaround points are. She knows what the weather looks like going in. She knows what she's getting into. She knows what the biggest challenges she might encounter are. And she's done like good research into how to prepare for some of those challenges. And she's made genuinely like her own decision that she can handle it and that she's ready for it and that she wants to take that on. She has her own navigation, her own GPS device, her own maps and compass. She has, I call this like in my programs, like having redundancy in your most essential safety items. We're not just going to say like, oh, so-and-so has the maps downloaded. I don't need to navigate like they're navigating. No, like you're self-sufficient. You're a self-sufficient baddie. You're going to navigate the route too. Like you should always be doing that. That should be like a skill you're always practicing and have ownership over. Like you both should be doing this. Like if the person who you're depending on is the only person navigating, they leave, and you don't have your own, stake in that and understanding in that, you're literally lost. So you have your own device and you have your own safety tools. And that's just like a full stop. Like I want that to be like a baseline thing that you always do. She has also, the self-sufficient hiker, she has also told somebody outside of her hiking partner where she's going before she left the house. She gave somebody like a friend, a sister, somebody in her life, the name of the trail, the trailhead location, when she expects to be back, what to do if they don't hear from her by a certain time, who she's going out with. If she's heading into the real backcountry, she has like satellite communication device so that she like can do check-ins and she's not dependent on cell service. She has like a true safety plan and not just like hoping everything goes fine. A real system that works even when something goes wrong. And she knows her own physical limits as well. Like she owns her physical limits. She didn't get on a trail because somebody told her she could handle it. She assessed the stats for herself, thought about how her body has been feeling, understood like what she's done in the past, decided on her own that this was within her capacity and it's something that she wanted to take on. And it doesn't mean we don't take on trips that are outside our comfort zone, or maybe we haven't done them before, but we have an understanding of like whether we think it's in our capacity or it's safe to take on to try. She is never just like trusting that somebody else picked the right trail for her. And here's what I love about all that. And I want you to notice this. There's nothing in any of what I just said that requires a partner. Every single piece of being self-sufficient can be totally yours. Like, you do not have to outsource any part of your safety to anyone. Like the self-sufficient hiker, she is hiking with her partner because she wants to, because it's fun, because she loves him, not because she can't get home without him. And, you know, the moment she has all of those things in place, that she feels self-sufficient and that she can have her own back no matter what, like that power dynamic changes completely. Like he could leave or he could stay, and he could be wonderful or he could be terrible. And, you know, people are unpredictable, so we got to be prepared for that. And her ability to get herself home does not have to depend on him at all. And that is what makes self-sufficiency like truly powerful and what it actually means on the trail. And that is the skill set that makes you immune to Alpine Divorce. And every single one of those skills is learnable. Navigation, route planning, safety systems, none of it is as complicated as it sounds. And it doesn't require decades of experience. What it requires is like somebody who like can teach you in the right order in a way that actually builds real confidence, instead of just giving you more information to be overwhelmed by. And that is like what I've been teaching since 2018. We've taught over 2,000 women inside of our Backpacking Badass program. I've probably taught over 50,000 women inside of our free events like the Summit. Over the last 8 years, we hold free events all the time. That is exactly what we're going to go deep on at the Solo Hiker Summit. You're going to learn from me and other experts in hiking and backpacking solo, real women who do this all the time, and they want to empower you to feel confident and self-sufficient in your own skills. So if you're sitting here thinking like, okay, I don't actually have those skills, I don't feel solo confident or self-sufficient yet, then I want you to know the Solo Hiker Summit was like literally created for you. This is an idea that we like created several years ago, and it's one of our most popular events that we host. And this year it's happening on June 3rd through 5th. It is completely free. It's 3 full days of sessions from women who are always out on the trail, who have real expertise, who are going to give you actual knowledge that you need to feel safe and empowered and confident out there on your own. We have Nicole Snell, I mentioned her earlier, from Girls Fight Back. She's going to talk about self-defense skills, specifically for solo hikers. We have Lauren Ronick, who spent her career in law enforcement, specifically working crimes against women. She's going to walk you through real statistics around solo hiking safety, which, by the way, are very different from what we are always told and being told on the internet. Kim Titchener has trained over 70,000 people on wildlife safety. She's going to cover exactly what you need to know about solo hiking in bear country. She is always a hit when she is at our summit. You are going to love her. My good friend Meg Atterbury, whom I've had on the podcast several times, and her and I together have tackled some of the most technical backpacking routes in the country together. She is going to be talking about shedding guilt and finding time for solo hikes and solo adventures as busy moms and caregivers, because she's a mom herself and she does badass things and she does a lot of things solo. And, you know, that is just a few of our guest speakers. So I'm also running several sessions myself. On day 2, we're going to go really deep on the real reasons, like you're scared to hike solo, what actually to do about them. On day 3, we're going to have a full like masterclass on how to make your first solo backpacking trip a reality this summer. Like really put it on the calendar, get like excited about it. And we have so many more amazing sessions. So that is what this summit is. It's where you go from, you know, thinking to yourself, like, I would really love to do this one day, to actually having the next steps to making it real and feeling more solo confident. So again, you can register at shedreamsofalpine.com/summit. It is free, so definitely go and save your spot. Now, as we kind of wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with one more thing that I kind of keep coming back to when I think about this topic again with Alpine divorce. So the women who get Alpine divorced or have stories around this, they're not just unlucky. I mean, yes, it is unlucky that they had a shitty partner that left them. And I, again, can't wrap my mind around how you could do that to somebody. But they were also never taught that their safety belongs to them. And here is what I think that is ultimately underneath that, the thing that is underneath the thing of the whole concept of Alpine divorce. So we live in a world that has been telling women a very specific story for a very long time. And, one of those stories that goes along with that is that the outdoors isn't safe for you, that you need somebody with you, that you should be afraid that safety is something other people manage for you, like your partner, your dad, the guy who knows the trail, the boyfriend, that needing somebody else to get you home is just the natural order of things. And, again, to be clear, I'm not saying that bad things don't happen, and they do, and that is real, and I'm not minimizing it. But there is a difference between being aware of risk and being so conditioned by fear that you never go and do the things that you want to do. And there's a difference between being smart and being dependent. And I think a lot of women have been handed the fear without ever being handed the tools to make their own empowered choice. And then trends like this whole Alpine divorce, trend on social media start getting a lot of attention, and it builds the fear even more without giving women really good tools that they can use for themselves. And that's not protection. It's just more fear stories, and it's keeping us small. So what I'm really talking about today isn't just Alpine divorce. It's that story. The one that says you can't do this alone, the one that says you need somebody else to take the lead, the one that has kept so many women stuck from wanting and having a more adventurous life and actually having that life. Because here's what I've seen happen over and over again in the 8 years that I've been doing this work as a full-time outdoor educator with over 2,000 women in our programs, and again, teaching so many more women in our free events. When a woman learns to navigate her own route, build her own safety plan, trust her own judgment in the outdoors, she doesn't just become safer on the trail. She rewrites that story for herself and for her kids and for her friend groups even. And she ultimately is rewriting that story for every other woman who comes after her. And I genuinely believe that the more women who step into this, who claim their own safety, who become self-sufficient, the safer these spaces become for all of us, because we stop being people who wait to be led, and we start being people who lead and who show up knowing the route and who can navigate safety decisions on her own merit, on our own merit. So you can learn those skills, every single one of them. And when you do, you are not just protected from Alpine divorce, you're going to step into a wildly adventurous version of yourself. And for me, that reinvention, that adventurous reinvention of becoming the woman who has her own back no matter what on the trails, that becomes the woman that version of me, when I stepped into that reinvention and I had my own back no matter what, I'd be self-sufficient and confident in my own skills. That led me to become the woman who has taken even bigger risks in her life in pursuit of her dreams, because I have built so much self-trust in myself, in the mountains and in the backcountry. So let's rewrite the story that women are constantly told and being told, and let's take ownership in all of it. And you are going to feel so much more free and step into a new version of yourself who isn't worried about being left behind, no matter what that situation that led you there is for. So All right, my friends, that is it for today. If this episode hit home, please share it because there are other women in your life who need this hot take. Not just the trendy piece or the outrage, but, having some actual real direction and answers underneath all of it and real tools to take it forward. So also come to the summit, shedreamsofalpine.com/summit. Again, it's free. It's 3 days. I genuinely believe it will change what you think is possible for you this summer. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun and you're going to love it. All right. So I will talk to you next week. Talk soon. Bye. Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.